Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday afternoon, May 22nd, 2022. My name is Athena McKay. I'm the Executive Director of Flint Innovative Solutions. We welcome you, and please do share this whether you're viewing on Facebook Live or YouTube Live. And we do encourage you to add your questions into the chat. So these phenomenal women, these community experts that we have on the panel today can express those questions, address those questions, and empower you and your family for better health. Today is the second edition, the second of our podcast called Taking It to the Streets, Healthy Conversations for Us, by Us, COVID-19 and Beyond. As you know, there's a lot going on in our community. We have a community expert on mental health who will be featured later on in the podcast. We also will, of course, be talking about vaccines, COVID, and beyond. This production is brought to you by grant funding from the Community Foundation of Greater Flint. The funding mechanism is called NNICE, which is the National Network to Innovate for COVID and Adult Vaccine Equity. We, Flint Innovative Solutions, our grant project is called Genesee County COVID-19 Portal, or GCCP. You may have seen some vaccine clinics out in the community with local faith-based organizations and community centers, with some of our panelists out in the streets. Yes, we were taking it to the streets. They are out getting shots in arms. We have had a total of 21 vaccines provided for our community through this effort. Thank you so much, Community Foundation, for your support. Thank you, Michigan United, for your timeless effort in the community. And also, if you were joining us last week, you know that we had Dr. Deborah Verholden on, who actually wrote the grant to bring these resources to the community. I want to make sure that you know that these ladies are a powerhouse. And because I only know a very snippet part of their journey, I would like to ask Dr. Latricia Gordon, and then Nurse T, as she is so lovingly known in the community. And we hope to be able to bring Nurse Battle on. She's having some technical difficulties, but we hope to resolve that. So they're going to give you a little bit of overview about their educational background, their work experience, and why they are experts, trusted sources in the community to deliver this information that will help you and your family.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Latricia Gordon, registered nurse. I work with the Genesee County Health Department and Michigan United. I also am a nurse in one of the local hospitals. I've been a nurse for 31 years. I started out in the Army at 18 years old, became an EMT, an LPN. Went to Mott Community College for my ADN. I got my BSN, so I have all the degrees in nursing, the term degree in nursing. I have a background in emergency care, ICU, women's and children. I pretty much worked all gamuts of areas in healthcare, nursing home. I own my own home care business. I also have a master's in informatics, building electronic health records. So recently, when the pandemic came out 2 years ago, I joined Michigan United as a public health navigator, providing information to the community on how to stay safe. This is before the vaccine was available, giving them the tools needed to remain safe, where resources if they did contact COVID. So those are things. And then Michigan United branched out with the Health Department and Michigan United partnered together when there was a need in the communities to have vaccines. They had a lack of people willing to go out in the community to do vaccines or being received to do vaccines. And I suggested that, I would, on the team at the time, I was the only nurse. I volunteered to go out to do the vaccine. So that's where the Michigan United mobile vaccine clinics sprung off. We're employed through the Genesee County Health Department. They provide us with all the resources that we need, the vaccine and training for all the nurses. And that's when you see us out on the street. We're with all different other partnerships. We partner with Innovative Solutions, multiple health organizations within the community. So we're just bringing it to the street. And our goal is to provide health literacy, vaccine equity, and just provide you with the best tools and knowledge that you can have to make the best decision for you regarding your health, the vaccine, and keep you up abreast on all the COVID changes and updates. Now I'm going to give it off to Nurse T, for she can give you a little bit about her background. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for that, Dr. Gordon. Hi, I am Tanisa Martin, otherwise known as Nurse T in the community. I have been a nurse for almost 21 years now. My career started as a nursing assistant. I was a nursing assistant for 10 years at McLaren Hospital, one of the local hospitals in the city. And then it was there that I decided to become a nurse so that I could better serve the community and take care of patients. I've been at Hurley for almost 21 years. I started out as an extern at Hurley, mother baby area. I transferred there and went to ortho trauma surgery unit. And I was there to where I found, the excitement for the trauma and being able to care for patients in a different level. So I advanced my career and went to critical care. I worked the telemetry unit, transferred from a telemetry unit to went to telemetry transplant, taking care of renal patients and kidney transplant patients. And then from there, I went to CCU. Believe it or not, I was in CCU for one day. And then I got called to start the rapid response team at Hurley. I was the first nurse to carry the rapid response team, which basically brings critical care to the bedside and to help the nurses out when patients were declining. I was a rapid response nurse for a couple of years, absolutely loved that position. Then I transferred into a position as a case manager. I was a case manager for a couple of years, looking at the severity of illness and the criteria and the mission when the patients came into the medical center and following them day to day. From there, I launched into management. I was a nurse manager for 12 years of a very busy med-surg unit. There, we care for all types of patients, all diversity of patients. And it was there when I was met with the first opportunity to be able to transition my unit into a COVID unit and care for COVID patients. So I've been able to care for patients from a broad spectrum, took care of patients with mental health issues, rehab, addiction. In addition, I did work at Flint Odyssey House as a detox nurse. I've also taught at U of M Flint as a clinical adjunct instructor, as well as Baker College. Now, I currently hold the role of patient resource and community advocate for Hurley Medical Center, which serves as a community liaison to educate on health disparities and improve access to care. In addition, I am serving proudly with Michigan United as a lead RN navigator, helping the community with vaccinations and creating a safe space and opportunity so that they can advance their care. So now, if Tanya is here, if not, should I pass it back to, oh, yes, thank you. Nurse Battle is here, so I will now pass it over to her.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Nurse T. And I apologize so much for technical difficulties, but thank you so much to Alita for her expertise. My name is Tanya Battle, and I'm a nurse at Hurley Medical Center. And I've been in the neonatal intensive care unit for over 30 years, going on 34 years. That's where I've spent my entire nursing career. I've joined Michigan United a couple of years ago as a nurse navigator during COVID because it was just important to get out and to lend a hand any way I could during such a stressful time for our community. And Michigan United has afforded me the opportunity to be instrumental in just bringing our community together and just raising knowledge about COVID, as well as being able to go out and now administer the vaccine. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity, and I just thank Flint Innovative Solutions for all that they're doing as well. And now I'm going to turn it back to Athena, I believe.
Yes, ma'am. Nurse Battle, you are out on the streets, for real.
I am really in the street now. Oh, my goodness.
So glad you could join us. And you look beautiful. I love the
Well,
pearls.
thank you so much.
Absolutely. I wanted to see, I get taken away. Y'all know me. I'm lively, vibrant. But did you hear the expertise that we have in this community? They're tangible, they're touchable, they're friendly, and they're easy to talk to. And they can break it down to us so that we can understand that, as we said at the last podcast, if you remember, fat meat is greasy. And there are repercussions if you keep on snacking on that fat meat. So we have Dr. Latressa Gordon, Nurse T, Nurse Battle here, and we're going to shift over. Again, we talked last week about mental health. We're going to save that very important ongoing piece for a little later. So I have Miss Taylor in the background, and y'all gonna be blown away. She ready, y'all. She ready. She ready. So I want to give Dr. Gordon another opportunity to share with us. I do have your slides, ma'am, if you want to go over your presentation about COVID-19.
Hello, everyone. See who's waiting for the slides. All right. Okay. Now, we're going to talk about COVID-19, which we've heard about for the past, 2.5 years. So, like I said, my name is Dr. Latressa Gordon. I'm a doctor of nursing, registered nurse. I'm the Michigan United Public Health Nurse Coordinator and also seasonal public health nurse with the Genesee County Health Department. Okay, so COVID-19 vaccine developers, I just went with the mRNA vaccines because those are the more popular ones, but we have Pfizer. Pfizer has an extensive history of developing vaccines. They developed the meningitis vaccine, the pneumonia vaccine, smallpox, polio, C. diff, that's, a bacterial, like an infection that you get that causes you to have a lot of mostly diarrhea or stool. That's very serious. And most recently, the SARS-CoV-2 vaccine. Moderna, let's see here, they have a long biotech for Moderna. They have a long history of developing mRNA technology. The mRNA technology has been used for treating cancer, infectious disease, and immunotherapy. Okay. The mRNA-1273 COVID-19 vaccine specialize in the development of proprietary technologies, methods to create the mRNA sequences. mRNA-based vaccine. So this is just a demonstration when you get your COVID-19 vaccine injection. It's not pink, but it's just a colorful demonstration. The vaccine, once it's administered, the mRNA technology is basically just a recipe written in the sequence here. And it tells your body how to make the spike proteins. So it goes in your arm into your deltoid muscle where you get the injection. The mRNA vaccine is placed, then the virus protein, the spike protein cell. So your body now gets your immune system primed to recognize the COVID-19 spike protein. Okay. The mRNA role in protein synthesis through a process known as transcription, a RNA copy of a DNA sequence for creating a given protein is made. The copy mRNA travels from the nucleus of the cell to part of the cell known as the cytoplasma, which houses the ribosomes. Ribosomes are complex machinery in the cells that are responsible for making proteins. And through this process known through translation, the ribosomes read mRNA and follow instruction. This is more scientific definition, but basically saying that it creates a recipe. Like you have a recipe at home, you know how to put 2 eggs on your pound cake, a 7-up cake, 6 eggs and flowers. So the copy mRNA, it travels, it has this recipe already written on it. And when it goes into the cells, the protein's creating step by step and express this protein, and it carries out the designated function in the cellular body. Okay, Pfizer versus Moderna. Both are mRNA vaccines. For Pfizer, when you get your first dose, you receive your second dose 21 days apart. And with Pfizer, it requires ultra cold storage. And then just has a breakdown of like $19.50 per use. The effectiveness of it or efficacy is 95%. And currently, this is kind of this slide is actually approved. Pfizer is approved for 5 and 11 now. Moderna mRNA is 2 doses, 28 days apart. requires cold storage. It's just a rough estimate about the price per dose. It's 94% effective or efficacy, and it's approved only for 18 years of older. Okay. Both vaccines have a sounding effectiveness according to their clinical trials. Moderna reports a 94.1% vaccine efficacy against COVID-19 and 100% efficacy against severe COVID-19. Pfizer Biotech, on the other hand, demonstrates 95% effectiveness against COVID-19 beginning 28 days after the first dose. Now, go on and say with the efficacy. Now, we know that the vaccine does not prevent you from getting COVID-19 is another tool in your arsenal that you have with your hand washing, your social distancing, wearing your mask. But the vaccine helps your body prepare to fight. If you choose to use a vaccine, it'll recognize when you come up, the spike protein comes in contact with your immune system. Now, after 2 weeks after you get your second dose for either vaccine, Moderna or Pfizer, 2 weeks, you're considered fully vaccinated. So after that 2-week period, now within that 2-week period, you still are not considered fully vaccinated. But within 2 weeks after receiving your second dose, you're considered fully vaccinated. So your body now is primed to recognize if you come in contact with the actual COVID-19 virus, and it helps decrease its replication in your system. Before, without the vaccine, COVID vaccine's a smart virus. It kind of hides and it's a stealth mode. The system doesn't recognize it right away. And so it can replicate really fast. And by that time, you can get really sick from it. So it just helps your immune system fight the vaccine. And like we say before, we reiterate that it will not stop you from getting COVID-19, but it's just another layer of protection. Okay. Now, some of the side effects after you get your vaccine, actually, I just got my fourth booster. You can have pain. Most common is the pain at the injection site. You might feel tired or kind of like, like the flu or cold. You can have a headache. And these are all normal. This is just sort of showing signs that your immune system is recognizing the vaccine and is getting ready. You might have muscle pain, chills, joint pain, fever, like I said, injection site pain, a little redness there, some nausea, vomiting, and mild fever. Things that you will not get with the COVID-19 vaccine. You should not be, having, coughing, shortness of breath, heart palpitation. Those are things that are the side effects from that because you actually may have COVID. And some people, after getting the vaccine, have said, well, I got the vaccine. And then like a couple of days later, I tested positive for COVID. Did the COVID-19 vaccine cause me to get COVID? No, more than likely, if you develop COVID within that short period before that 2 weeks, you might have already been exposed to COVID. And now you've actually, come down with the symptoms. Okay. Myths. Like I just spoke, can you get COVID-19 from the vaccine? No, studies, it's that there's no live virus in the vaccine that cause you to have COVID. You will have side effects. And some studies show that people that have actually had COVID before their first vaccine might have more severe, side effects or symptoms, just like the flu vaccine. The vaccine, does it alter your DNA? No, once the mRNA vaccine goes in and it teaches your body to replicate that spike protein, it's dissolved in your body and just, it's gone away. It's not there changing your DNA. The vaccine does not contain a microchip. These are all valid and common questions. Like I said, that's one thing when we're taking it to the street, when we're out there in the street, we're having regular conversation. There's no errors. There's no big, medical jargon. We're just making it. Health literacy is our biggest thing. We want you to understand the vaccine because this is a big choice for you to make. It's your health choice. Like we said, we are there for vaccine efficacy and vaccine to have you. Oh my God, pause, rewind. We're out there for you to have the vaccine access and have safe conversations about the vaccine. So we never say, well, we're not out there to pressure you for the vaccine. We want you to know that if you see us out there in the streets, we're out there for you can have the same access as anyone else to the vaccine. And then, do I need to wear a mask after I get vaccinated for COVID-19? Yes, you do still need to wear a mask. You still need to take your other precautions. Like I said before, it is just tools in your arsenal. And these are just some references here from the things that, I talked about. So now I will turn it over to Nurse Tanya. Thank you.
All right. So, if you think that you've been exposed, if you have had the virus and you've gone through your isolation period, it's still very important. Testing is still very important. Sometimes you can have you can spread the virus even if you don't have any symptoms. So testing. Just recently, the federal government put out a notice that they are allowing households eight additional testing kit sites for home testing. So it's very important that we are testing. Um, and on the screen is some upcoming clinic sites that we'll be doing vaccine. These are vaccine clinics. But I want to, can we go back to, I think it's the other screen that talks about the testing. Yes. So CHEP, which is your community health um, agency in Genesee County, they also will help you get free home testing kits. The number for CHAP is 810-953-2427. Genesee County Health Department also has their website. If you go to Genesee County Health Department website, they can also help you get some free home testing kits as well. And one thing about the home testing is that we have to be sure that we are reporting our positive results to the Genesee County Health Department. And I do have a number to report positive tests, and that number is 810-344-4800. It's very important for record keeping that we do report our positive home COVID test. And I am going to turn it over to Miss Athena, I believe.
Not quite. Thank you, Nurse Battle. I'm standing in line. We got Nurse T that's going to share us another snippet on how to connect your family to resources.
Okay, so turn it over.
Okay, thank you very much for that update and that information. Thank you, Dr. Gordon, for that information. So what I want to talk about is REACH. So yes, it's an acronym that I kind of like put together. So like what happens when you or your loved one suddenly gets COVID? So what happens, typically what we want to do is we want to call our workplace and say, you know what, I've been impacted by COVID and I'll see you in the next 10 days. But sometimes that's not always the case. You can call and say, I'll see you in the next 10 days. But while you're off with COVID, your family could still be falling apart, especially if you're a single mom. So what plans do you have in place if you are impacted by COVID? So that's some of the things that we really need to think about. We plan for everything. We plan for weddings, we plan for funerals, we plan for vacations, but do we actually have a plan in place that's reachable so that we can reach out to people before the virus catch us? Because what happens, sometimes we panic, and when we panic, we get frustrated, we get angry, and then a lot of stress comes upon us, and we do things that we wouldn't normally do because COVID comes and disrupts us from our norm. So what I want to talk about is reach. I want to say make sure that you sit down and you have these conversations with your family and education so that they will know what to do in an event you are impacted by COVID. The R stands for reach out to trusted family, friends, and sources. Get a list of people that you are familiar with and that you are comfortable with. Have their name, their phone numbers, their address, their emails. So just in case in an event, you can reach out to them. Encouraging and educating families to be ready in an event caregiver is impacted. That means sitting down and having conversations with your children, with your husband, with your parents, with anybody that's in your circle so that they can understand the signs and symptoms of COVID, what you may be going through. Even if you've never went through COVID before, there's a lot of education that we are sharing. At least they'll be familiar. So like moms can, if you have young kids, you can say, baby, if I'm ever impacted with COVID or your father is impacted with COVID, we may be isolated from you for a while so that they will understand what that means. activate alternative caregiver list. Make sure that you have a list that's ready and available to be activated so that in an event you are impacted by COVID, somebody else can call people for you based upon the list and the chosen people that you have picked. Create a plan and choose individuals that are low risk if possible. And I know that we are all at risk for COVID, but pick people, sometimes, yes, we all have grandmothers, and I'm not being funny, but if you know that you have a grandmother or a loved one that's immunocompromised and they're older, that might not be the best person to pick as an alternative care provider. And then H, handle your business. In an event that you are hospitalized, make sure that you have people in place to be able to pay your bills, to know where your finances is. That's why the first letter was reach out to trusted family and friends so that you won't be worried about it. So that when you come home, if you are hospitalized, that you will still be able to have your home and everything in place. It's all about creating a safe plan and being prepared whenever you are impacted by COVID. We've seen so much with COVID, and we've seen so many families go through so many things. We are in the middle of a pandemic, and yes, a pandemic causes a panic, but guess what? We can be prepared for that panic by having us a reach plan in place. And now I am going to turn it over to Adina. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow. That was a lot of information. So if we could do just a quick recap, ladies. Dr. Latressa, you mentioned the vaccine and how important it is in the different types of vaccines. Could you also share like boosting schedule? I know there's been questions in the community of what is the time frame that you should wait before getting boosted, and then even the fourth booster?
Right now for Moderna and Pfizer for 12 and up is 5 months after the completion of your series. So after you complete your series, you know that your last dose of Pfizer or Moderna, 5 months from that day, you're eligible for your first booster for the ages of 12 and up. And now if you're immunocompromised, it's a different story. You're allowed to get 3 doses. So 28 days after your second dose, Moderna, Pfizer, you're able to get your third dose. And then your next 28 days later, 3 months later, you're able to get a booster. And then for J&J, we really don't touch too much because right now, even the CDC and the health department, we really don't recommend Johnson & Johnson. But it's 2 months after your first J&J, you can get a second booster. And then also, again, you can have a third one. So right now, you have your first booster is 5 months for 12 and up. And 12 and up only can get the Pfizer. The 5 and 11, we're working in the process for 5 to 11 years old. They'll be coming up next to get their booster. But if they're immunocompromised, it's 28 days after the completion of their series.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nurse Battle, quick question for you as well. Following up around the testing sites, can you shared how important it is to get tested. Do you have highlights that you want to share us? And then where can we go to get testing if we're not getting the home kits?
So we do have our standard testing sites are, one second, Word of Life, and they do regular testing on Tuesdays and Thursdays between 12 and 6. At Bethel United Methodist, Bethel does testing on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And Macedonia Baptist Church, Macedonia does testing on Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And, as we know, the lines are not long anymore. An appointment is recommended, but it's not necessary. If you feel you need testing, please go to one of the testing sites. If you want the home testing kits, again, CHAP can assist you in getting free home COVID tests. CHAP's phone number is 810-953-2427, as well as the federal government. And I believe that website is www.gov.gov. covid.gov/test. And you can go on that site and order it. I ordered mine and I think it came like the next day. So you get the test kit, and just please read the directions thoroughly before you perform your your home test kit. Wash your hands, read the directions carefully. If you get a positive test, please be sure to report it to the Genesee County Health Department, and just please stay safe.
Thank you. And we did add that some of that information in the chat. I know we're getting a lot of information and we want to make it as available as possible. Thank you, Nurse Battle. Nurse T, question for you. So preparedness is so important. And as we go into our next segment about mental health, you talk about the panic with COVID. Can you share again some of those high points on what we can do and prepare ourselves and our family?
Yes. Discuss the plan ahead with individuals in your family. Have a plan knowing that it's a possibility that you may wake up in the morning and have symptoms, go to the doctor, and then they may either send you home or they may send you to the hospital. Making sure you have a plan in place. Documents, making sure that all your documents as far as your business are available and in a safe place to where the loved ones you trust can have access to them. And write down instructions. Being specific, like if your kids have allergies or if they have special meals or they have different activities, making sure everything is written down for an alternative person to be able to be in place. Have bags packed, just in case, because you never know. Because what we've seen a lot was that individuals will go to the doctor, not feel well, and then be hospitalized and not have those resources in place. So just being prepared. It reduces the panic.
Thank you so much. It's funny. It's not funny, but it's funny because for years I have seen like the United Way preparedness. I'm like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this, and even the fire escape and all of those things. But COVID changes things. It puts an urgency on the things that we take for granted. So thank you so much for sharing that information. We're going to shift gears just a bit and talk about mental health, how important it is for us to be able to make those wise choices on how to prepare yourself mentally, of course, physically and spiritually. We got some prayer warriors on the line, if you may not know. Before we jump into some meat, you see, I'm putting it off because I don't think y'all ready for Miss Taylor to come on. But I wanted to just have a little chuckle. This is how the folks that I'm around perceive mental health. We do not own the rights to this information. But I believe I'm with some Flintstones that could use a little bit of entertainment.
Press. You ain't know the press, you just hungry. Go on up in there and get you something to eat. Put some on your stomach. Is your grandson up in here talking about he depressed?
Depressed?
You know we don't get depressed.
No, we
What's
don't.
Depressed?
Boy, you know it's when it get cold and rainy.
That's the thing that they talk about on the Weather Channel.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, what's wrong with you? I just think I'm depressed.
I see some laughs back here. Y'all, I'm not sharing the screen yet, but mental health is a real thing. I've heard this scenario more than once. As folks of faith, we often say pray about it. You just need to spend some more time with with the Lord in prayer. But I want to bring on a mental health professional who will share some insight. I have the honor to introduce to some and to share with others Ms. Sharonda Taylor. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself, and then just share some information on how we can get through the season of COVID and sustaining our mental health.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me today. Um, I'm Sharonda. I'm a clinical therapist, clinical psychologist with a limited license in the state of Michigan. I've been working in the field of mental health for 19 years, and I started off from the ground basically as a wraparound facilitator, wrapping services around children who had emotional impairments, and I moved on up into case management for adults and supports coordination for individuals with developmental delays. And then I transitioned from there into intake assessments and outpatient therapy before I moved into Genesee County Community Mental Health, now known as Genesee Health Systems, as one of their psychologists who monitored the group homes for the seriously mentally ill in Genesee County. I also worked in the area of monitoring the home for the not guilty by reason of insanity and transitioning those individuals out of the state facility, psychiatric hospital, after they completed their term. So from there, I ended up moving into the state hospital where I basically provided rehabilitation treatment and competency assistance to individuals who were not competent to stand trial, and basically continued the petitions until they met criteria or we were able to get them competent. I still continue to provide outpatient therapy to individuals in the community. And my education includes a bachelor's degree in social science, what I initially thought that I was going to be using for criminal justice, but I was thrown into the field of mental health, and I'm super excited about it because I learned so much about mental health that I did not know anything about prior to that little skit or whatever you guys just played with just resonated with me, because that is exactly what we basically heard growing up in our community. We didn't know anything about mental health, and a lot of the things that a lot of these children or adolescents experience, they are a little bit more understanding of the symptoms than we were growing up, but they are real. They basically can cause us to experience all kinds of symptoms that we're not necessarily aware of, that we attribute to other things, and they impact our function in our relationships, our jobs, education, and even in a way, sometimes that doesn't have to involve us being sad or scared. It may just be decreased in ability to think clearly, inability to sleep as well as we used to sleep. Basically, coping with change and different things that frustrate us in a way that doesn't impact our function in the community legally. So it is something to have a conversation about, especially in our culture, because many people are guarded because of how we've been treated for so long and invalidated from our experiences, that they don't want to believe many mental health professionals. But it's changing because we have people of color who are working in the mental health field and normalizing this experience, not only by educating people about mental health, but sharing our own experiences with mental health, such as anxiety or depression, which I've experienced both. So it's something to basically not be ashamed of. It's part of being human. Just a part of existing. Just like we have physical health, we have mental health, and we don't have to be psychotic to have symptoms of mental health, just like we don't have to be terminally ill to have symptoms of physical health.
Thank you so much for that information. We do have Miss Lisa Washington gave you a shout out, so she's very proud of you, and this is informative information. Do you have any additional, like, if there were 3 things that you wanted to recommend to our community to safeguard their mental health, what would those maybe 3 to 5 things be?
Well, just like what I would probably do to kind of normalize people to understand how to go about maintaining or good mental health. First, I would start off with an assessment, just like we would do if we had a physical with our physical health, just to see if we're experiencing any symptoms that may be attributed to something else in our mind, but could be attributed to our mental health. Many times people struggle with symptoms in their physical body because it's ironic that a lot of our mental health symptoms cause us to have physical health symptoms. And we tend to run to the ER a lot of the times to get those symptoms addressed when they're really just things that are triggered from their thinking. So if we learn how mental health operates within the body, we will learn to tolerate a lot of the symptoms that we are freaking out about when we experience them, so we can determine if this is something that's attributed to our mental health or our physical health. When we're talking about situations such as post-traumatic stress disorder, trauma, have experiencing trauma in our history, we basically could experience symptoms as well that cause us to feel sensations in the body that sometimes people attribute to physical health or a situation that may not necessarily be mental health, but in their mind, but they know it's something that's causing them some distress. For example, if a person basically has an event where they have been traumatized, maybe they've been to the military and were participating in active war, fighting for us, females getting raped, children being abused physically or sexually. These type of events can cause us to experience a startle response. And that's really what PTSD is. Not everybody who basically gets traumatized will have PTSD. PTSD is the acronym for post-traumatic stress disorder, and it is a disorder that is characterized by an exaggerated response that is felt in the body to a situation, and it can really impact our function. And that would mean that we have difficulty at school, work, at home, in the family, in the community, legally. And it can complicate things for us in ways that we would normally not experience had we not been exposed to that traumatic event. I think that what we would want to understand, if I had to recommend a couple things as it relates to managing our mental health, again, I would recommend us getting assessed and going in there knowing yourself. Because when you know yourself, you won't be blown out of your seat by what people are thinking or saying just because they're identifying what they may believe that it is. It's not going to hurt us at all to hear what they have to say. And we know if they're on to something, and if they are barking up the right tree, hey, we want to hear more about it. Let's talk about it so we can see if it's something that we can do for ourselves to manage the symptoms. I would also recommend having a physical, because if you have a physical, you can rule out any physical situations that you could be actually having, like a diagnosis that may be undiagnosed, or low vitamin D, or low vitamin B, or low iron. low functioning thyroid, different things like that can produce symptoms of depression and anxiety and interfere with our ability to sleep that could mimic depression and anxiety. But it basically is attributed on the primary level to the physical health condition, which would not be primarily a mental health condition. So that would be the second. Third, I would basically explore education about what the treatments are to basically getting these symptoms addressed, such as behavioral therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy, which basically just involves you learning how to manage the symptoms by exploring how your thinking impacts your mood and how you feel, and coming up with coping skills that can help you manage your mood and reduce your anxiety without medication. And if medication is needed because those symptoms are too stressful for you to manage without, then basically going to consult and talk to a psychiatrist, a specialist in prescribing those medications, so that you can ask all the questions that you want rather than hearing all of the information in the community by people who are afraid to take medication because they believe that it will make them crazy. That is not true. It will definitely improve your level of functioning and your symptoms if you are prescribed the right medication, but it is important for you to be able to describe your symptoms well enough for them to get an idea of what's going on. That would be my recommendation.
And as Ms. Wheeler said, those are great recommendations. Thank you so much. So we should assess. We should get a physical to assess the physical part, and also explore treatments. And as you know, we have our nurses I'm going to bring back in to the conversation. I know you've all experienced a gamut of experiences. If you would like to share some in our last few minutes, some tips that you would like to share with our community about mental health and prevention.
I know for me, I do have post-traumatic stress myself. So I thank, Mrna Taylor for coming in with the input. The first thing about it, like she says, being real with yourself. And the biggest thing is the stigma. And my thing was I wanted to hide my symptoms when I had a panic attack or my anxiety while I'm working. So I don't want anybody to know that I'm freaking out. They're going to think, first thing when people hear post-traumatic stress, and you've been in the military, like, oh, she's going to, you're going to do some harm. You're going to blow up a post office, just, just trigger points. But just realizing that COVID forced me to deal with it. When we came out on the unit, and for me, a trigger is a mask and being enclosed in PPE for long periods of time. So that was a trigger for me that I had to recognize. And so when I did that, I had an episode on my unit, like, oh my God, I'm embarrassed. They know that I'm having panic attacks. They know that I have, so it had to be brought to light. But that's how, God operates to help me to deal with it. Do I still struggle? I still struggle with my, the anxiety and the panic attack. But having other people know that this is what's going on instead of hiding, so they can okay, like Nurse Battle when we first, started out doing our vaccine clinic. So she knows if I start getting like, woo, I'm hot now. I'm on the streets, but I'm hot. So she'll be like, okay, and kind of help me to stay grounded. Same thing with Nurse T, her just having people around you that know what's going on with you, that don't judge you, and to help you stay grounded.
I think that's interesting that you say that, because what I share with my patients, I really educate them on the body. Because if we didn't have the symptoms in our body to feel the discomfort, we wouldn't really care about all the symptoms or what it's called or what's going on with all of it. But the distress is very uncomfortable. Yes. And what causes that distress is an almond-shaped mass in our brain that's called the amygdala. And I just have my patients call it the almond. But that almond-shaped mass has one job, and it is to protect us by warning us of danger. And so what it does is anytime it is reminded of a previous dangerous event that you've experienced, it basically triggers us to experience anxiety and all of the distressing feelings that we get, so that we can either run or kick some butt. So basically, at that point, we have to determine what we're going to do. Well, most of us are overwhelmed by the distress because we don't feel good when we're not really having a traumatic event. But that little almond-shaped mass, it doesn't have thinking capacity. It doesn't know real from fake. So it's warning us about something that it believes is occurring in that moment because of the memory that was triggered by usually something in our environment. We may not be aware of it because we do have a conscious level of thinking and a subconscious level of thinking. And the subconscious level of thinking does not involve our awareness. So when we're not aware of what the trigger is, we're now feeling like, oh my gosh, am I crazy? What's going on? Why am I feeling like this? Sometimes patients will say, well, I'm not anxious. It's not a panic attack or an anxiety attack because I'm not anxious. But if you basically were triggered by something that would normally cause you to feel fearful or nervous, even if it's not in the capacity that you're used to being aware of it occurring, it can make us feel that way in the body. So understanding that that's how anxiety works, and that PTSD was essentially an anxiety disorder. It has a baseline of anxiety. So understanding anxiety is the key to managing anxiety, panic disorder, OCD, and post-traumatic stress disorder.
Thank you so much.
I just want to say, if our car is broke, we take it to a mechanic.
Mhm.
If we break a bone or we have an ache and pain or something is going on in our body, we go to a doctor, we go to the emergency room, we get attention.
Mhm.
Our mental health is just as important. And sometimes it's in need of repair. So
Absolutely.
it's okay. Speak out, talk about it. Like
Mhm.
Dr. Gordon said, you know, just talking about it, somebody will identify with you and be like, girl, you know, we identify. But people won't be able to grasp that concept, break the stigma if we don't talk about it and reach out, take our own health, you know, be an advocate for ourselves and get the help that we need if we need it.
Yes, I agree. That is my plan because my passion is to change what people think about mental health. I tend to normalize it a lot. I share my own mental health with my patients because I want them to understand that this is a discussion. This is not judgment. This is not something that is about you as a person as it relates to a choice. What many people don't understand that a lot of mental health conditions are hereditary and DNA, you know, related to have a hereditary factor to it. We have a DNA history, you know. So some of this stuff is not even our fault. We didn't pick our parents. We didn't pick our grandparents. Some of our parents and grandparents have symptoms, and my dad had PTSD, and you know, and he was the only sibling that had the symptoms of the startle response and the aggression that he had towards people. But you know what? A lot of our family members sometimes struggle with a lot of irritability and maybe some substance use, things like that. That would kind of indicate that there was some things going on that was outside of PTSD because he was the only one that went to the military. So when we think about that, we just have to accept it for what it is, not judgment. It is something to behold when you understand something that's going on and then you know what to do about it. But, you know, plenty of us feel afraid because they think that it means something to be anxious or it means something to be depressed or you're crazy if you have a mood disorder. We all have mood problems and we basically have all been sad before. So if we can call one person crazy, then we're really calling ourselves crazy because we are all the same. We all have feelings, and that's something that none of us want to experience. I think we're supposed to experience or we wouldn't have them. They're supposed to speak to us about what's going on with us. So we need to listen to these feelings and interpret what that means about the experience, or what we're not happy with, or what's going on in our lives, not who we are as a person, or if we're not good enough, or if we're not smart, or if we're not stable mentally, or we're psychotic. No, it's basically us learning how to deal with this snag that's caused us to feel this emotional consequence to some situation. And I like what Nurse Battle said when she said we go to the doctor and we take care of ourselves. If we basically hit our foot on a bed, we will baby that baby toe. 2 years from now, if we could, we'll sit around. Hey, don't touch that toe. Don't touch that toe. Go on around there. You hit my toe. You hit my toe. Hey, wait. Well, I can't wear this shoes. I'm gonna wear this big Buster Brown right here on this foot because I can't squeeze that baby toe. But anybody get a feeling that something has happened that was wrong, they got wronged by a relationship partner, they've been fired, they basically had some hurtful experience, they want to act like they're not experiencing these distressing times when they should. It is normal to feel angst or sad if you lose your dream job, or if you don't have an income anymore. It is normal for you to feel sad when you've gotten your heart broken. It is normal for you to want to cry if you lost something, or you lost your pet, or whatever it is. But we want to say, I'm good, I'm okay. Well, why can't we feel that? Why can't we be sad? It would be different if it was something that we want to do forever, but we just need to take the time and show ourselves some compassion.
I do, Ms. T, Nurse T, if you'd like to share before we wrap up, we do want to share some resources as we have bottled some of this information to show you where you can go to get additional resources. Nurse T first.
Yes, one thing that I want to add, I serve on the board of NAMI, which is National Alliance for Mental Illness, and I just finished my family to family certificate to be able to facilitate sessions. And one thing that's common is with the families. The families are crying out because what they want the community to understand is that if they have a child that have cancer, everybody comes and helps and assists. But if they share that their child have bipolar or schizophrenic, everybody runs from them. So as well as creating a safe space from within, we need to also be able to create a safe space within the community so that we will share the same level of love and respect for physical conditions as well as mental. And a lot of the community residents and the community family members that have loved ones with mental health, they need to be able to Q-tip and quit taking it personal. Because one thing that we've noticed as nurses is that a lot of the family members, they take it personal because they don't know how to separate the mental health illness from the person. And so it needs to be a lot of education and wraparound services to help the community to feel secure in that aspect.
Well, with that being said, I will like to promote a podcast that I will be releasing soon, and services for the community that involve behavioral services for children, educational services for adults, individuals who are on the autism spectrum and who are developmentally delayed, because I have the experience understanding how to communicate based on understanding the function of the behavior. So you're right. If parents want to learn more about it, they can also look out for my podcast and my business page, which would be called Brain Click. And it's going to be launching probably in 2 to 3 weeks. And I'm hoping to basically have a little soft launch where we can actually have individuals come out and learn more about the services that will be provided, and develop a community within the city of Flint, or even the surrounding areas in Michigan, if we want to come together so we can teach each one of these special groups to support one another, because sometimes the resources are just not there in the community. So sometimes we got to create them for ourselves. So that's what I'm hoping to do with Brain Click. It is spelled brain like BRAIN, and click CLIQ. I do have a business page that I just created, and they're currently working on getting it all set up so that the website and things will be ready to launch in a couple weeks. So it should be some good things that we can offer to the community, and some good little gifts maybe for the launch when we basically get it all together in 2 to 3 weeks. But I appreciate all of you beautiful women for allowing me to come and sit here among you guys. I'm so excited to have met you, and I look forward to actually talking to you guys more and doing other things with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor, for your information. We'll be on the lookout. Please do share Brain Click with us. And I do want to share the information, a repeat of last week. We have the Genesee County Health Systems, Behavioral Health and Urgent Care. As you can see on the screen, they can be reached for those urgent matters, 810-496-5500. And then they also have walk-in services Monday through Friday. We know that we're all going through some crazy times.
Yeah.
COVID brought us here. These educators, these health educators have been working tirelessly beyond COVID. We know racism is a serious issue in our community. Black and brown folks are being slaughtered. We all experience the massacre that happened in Buffalo, New York. It's not okay. And it's okay to say that I'm not okay because there is injustice in the world. We hope to continue to provide this space for us to talk about things that matter to you, that are important, COVID and beyond. We're here at the end of the, y'all are just rolling, and I'm like, we can't shut it off right now. There's some more. I'll just add these couple of notes here, and then we'll roll the banner. We'll be here again in 2 weeks, which will be June 12th. Alita, if you can share that slide. Again, taking it to the streets. COVID-19, June 12th, 3:30 to 4:30 will be session 3. And it'll be a surprise because I lean on our health experts, Dr. Latressa, Nurse T, and Nurse Madonna, to share the information on their heart out in the community. So join us June 12th. Share this video, this podcast on your networks, on your within your sphere of influence, so that they can be educated. There was a lot of information, a lot of good information. Go back, take some notes, and reach out to these ladies. They're available through social media and also in their professional manner. Thank you so much, Latressa, Nurse T, Nurse Battle, Miss Taylor. So nice to meet you and work with you. Signing off. Love you all. Take care, community.